Welcome to the Strong Enough Podcast, your relationship wellness podcast. I'm your host, Claudia. Today's guest is going to share with us how she survived a domestic violence relationship and how she is teaching her daughter what signs to look for and how to read between the lines. Please help me in welcoming Jill Stewart. Jill, thank you so much for being here today. I have to tell you that I am so excited to talk to you. You are somebody that I have been trying to get on this podcast for a minute, and you finally agreed, and it made me so happy. How are you today?
I am great. How are you?
Good. Ready to knock this out and talk about some heavy stuff, but some fun stuff as well.
I am honored.
Well, your story is going to really impact people. I know that, and I'm really grateful that you are deciding to share that with everybody right now. Before we kind of get into the heavy stuff, though, for people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about Jill and who you are.
I am a 34-year-old single mother. I was born and raised in the state of New Jersey. I currently live in the state of New Jersey. I am a big music enthusiast, as you know this very well. I'm into tattoos, iced coffee, if you didn't know that. I'm a big iced coffee drinker. I didn't know that. Just iced coffee. I love iced coffee. Oh my God. It's it's an obsession, but it's kind of a good obsession, because there's a lot worse out there. But this one is fun and addicting, and it keeps me going. Like the little bit of caffeine kick just keeps me going. But yes, I'm a huge iced coffee drinker.
Love that. Yeah, I did not know that. I also love iced coffee and hot coffee. I love all the coffee, to be honest with you. Before we dig in, though, what is your favorite brand or type of iced coffee?
I switch between going to Dunkin' Donuts and getting their large cold brew, 7 creams, 7 sugars, which is a lot of sugar. Yes, I know. Or I would actually do the Starbucks double shot energy drinks. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, whenever you come out and visit me in Colorado, we're going to get you some Dutch Bros. So shout out to Dutch Bros Coffee. I love Dutch Bros. They started in Oregon and have made their way to the Denver area. So every time I roll through Denver, I have to get Dutch Bros. So I will definitely introduce you to that. And maybe that can be a little incentive for you to make your way out here to visit. Little iced coffee, bribery.
Dutch Bros sounds really good.
Nice. So yes, we'll get you some Dutch Bros. Well, let's dig in. So everybody knows, kind of the topics that we talk about here on this podcast. And today we're going to talk about your personal experience with an abusive relationship. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the background of that relationship?
This relationship started roughly in the ending of 2011, the beginning of 2012. And everything was going great until I asked a little bit about this person's past, and they were very hesitant to tell me. They told me one thing, but they left out the most important thing, which I was unaware of. My family has advised me to research this person because this person is able to be searched. It is public record. And I ended up getting pregnant from this person. So it was kind of like I was stuck a little bit now. So with my family advising me to look into this person's past, I decided against it. And I probably shouldn't have done that, but I was having a child with this person, so I really wanted to make it work. But he showed his abusive side when I would talk down to him a little bit, as to, you're not prepared. What are you doing to prepare? And he'd always snap back at me over the phone. I was out hanging with a friend doing a little shopping, and they also witnessed it over the phone, over clothing racks. They heard him. So I had to end the phone conversation right then and there. There was a little bout on New Year's Eve ringing in 2013 that happened here. And my family was in the next room watching television, and he was screaming at me over the phone. And one person in the living room heard this conversation. Yeah. And they hired the volume on the TV, and they still heard the person's conversation with me. I had tears in my eyes. I was so overwhelmed, anxious. I didn't know what to do. And then this family member got up, stormed in this room that I'm in now, and said, if you don't hang up the phone, I will call the police. So I ended that phone conversation as well. And it got even worse after she was born. There was video that I took in the state of New Jersey. It's perfectly legal. If one party is aware of the recording, then nothing can be done about it. And I was aware of the recording because I was the one doing it. And he continued to curse and scream at me. And she was in the vehicle at the time. And she even said, stop, stop, stop. And he just talked right over her. He told me, sometimes I need to be yelled at. He was in jail for 8 years for a very serious crime, which you are very aware of. And he outright said, just because I went to prison doesn't mean shit. So he was cursing in front of my daughter and not even caring. When I told him nicely, he told me I had no choice but to listen to him and to get over myself. And it was just a very, very, very toxic relationship that I was warned about before treading waters on, and I didn't listen. And I kind of regret not listening, but I don't regret the relationship because I do have my daughter because of it.
And she is amazing. So
Thank you.
Please know that you are raising a beautiful, energetic little girl. And she is going to be an even stronger young woman because of what you went through and because of what you can teach her. And we're gonna talk about that. I can see you getting a little emotional. So take a minute. I'll talk here for a minute so you can relax. I know that, from my own personal experience, that a lot of times we do minimize the situation. We make up our own excuses. We maybe do avoid looking further into that person because maybe there's things there that we feel like we don't want to know. And so we just avoid it altogether. So how do you feel now in looking back? Do you wish that you had seen those red flags a little sooner, or how does it make you feel just to know what you went through?
I definitely came out a stronger person because of it. I now know what signs to look for, and now I know not to stay silent about it anymore. If something were to surface and somebody were to say something like a trigger word from the past, I would call them out on it now. I wouldn't hold back, and I would let them know that I was in a domestic violence relationship. I was verbally abused. This is what happened. And they'd either not care, or they'd be willing to comply, or they'd be, willing to work around that situation and not say certain words around me. Other than that, I can tell you that it's okay not to be okay, but it's also extremely important to speak up. share your feelings with somebody if you are in this situation, because it's only a matter of time when that person gets in your head, and then you really, really, really are stuck in certain situations and places where you wouldn't even think you'd be stuck in. But I'm definitely a better person for it. I'm trying to raise my daughter the way that I was raised, which is totally different from what that person wants. But you know, I don't want that instilled in her. I don't want her to have that fear instilled in her. You know, I don't want her to be afraid to approach anything. So I'm trying to work towards letting her know that it's okay to, you know, try, try certain things. And if you don't like it, at least you can say that you tried.
Absolutely. So I want to know, you mentioned toxic relationship and being verbally abused. Now, there are a lot of people out there who have that misconception that abuse is only physical, that somebody has to be hit or kicked to be abused. So talk about how damaging it is to be verbally abused.
It's actually very damaging. It's actually it's on the same level as physical abuse, because it abuses you, maybe not physically, but up here you start to think certain things. You start to get down on yourself. You start to get depressed. You start to get the anxiety, the shakes, the jitters. And it's just really bad, because then you get inside your own head and then you're fighting with yourself. Although you're trying to tell yourself you're okay, but you're really not okay. So you need to speak up. You need to let this out. Just like venting to anybody works wonders. Like, you get it off your chest, it feels so much better. I know that this particular topic is a hit or miss for a lot of people, because they are afraid to speak up. They're afraid of repercussions. They're afraid of retaliation. I am here to tell you that do not be afraid of that. Okay? If you need the help, you let somebody know. Even if you whisper to them, send them a text message, whatever the case may be, you have to let somebody know, so that way you don't get trapped up here. Because once they trapped you up here, it's a little bit tougher to get out of a lot of situations.
I would say it's a lot tougher, to be honest with you. And I think, in my opinion, I say all the time that I believe verbal abuse, emotional abuse can be even more damaging than physical abuse. And I'm not, minimizing physical abuse. It's bad. But when you start to really mess with somebody's self-esteem, their self-worth, that can really have even longer term damage to those individuals. So how long were you guys together from the point that you started to experience, some of the yelling and the issues, to when you said enough is enough?
I'd have to say July of 2012 until maybe after, well, the recording happened in 2016, I believe. It's when I actually did it. But July 2012 is when it started. And then it continued on until August of 2016, up until that car ride. Because he did jail time for quite some time for a crime it literally still makes me cry to read about it. Again, I didn't know. My family warned me on it. I just didn't listen. I should have. But that's what happens when you're in a domestic violence type relationship. You don't want to believe what anyone says. Love this person. You'll do anything for them and all that stuff. And then you ignore every single bad sign that there is, which isn't really a good thing. But that's what I did. And
Go ahead.
I still sometimes get it via text message, but I mean, he could just be having a bad day. Again, I'm chalking it up and giving him excuses, which isn't a good thing. But she hasn't seen him since 2019. So
that was going to be my next question: is what relationship do you have to have with him now because of your daughter?
Yes. He's aware, and it's partially because of the pandemic as well. It's because, my daughter has a health issue, which is why I don't allow her out very much, because she has asthma and everything. So, that's just a trigger. But that's a big reason why. And he's very understanding to that, because he's well aware. But he still would ask about it. And one time when we were at a park in public, this was before COVID was a thing, that he actually convinced her to say out loud, "I want a sleepover." And now he has supervised visits. So the supervisor is my mother. And my mother heard that as well. And that's when we got up and we left the meeting, because that was his way of influencing her and brainwashing her. And I do not want that to happen, because it happened to me, and it's not a good time at all.
Well, and it sounds like, that's just another way to attempt to manipulate you and to even gaslight you about who he is and what kind of person that he is.
Yeah.
You said that sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say it was a tough way to leave, because I know she wanted to be there to see him. But the situation that presented itself moments before kind of was either, okay, I'm going to stay here and tolerate this in front of her, or I'm going to leave and just keep the peace. So
what gave you the strength to hold that boundary? Because I think a lot of people, might have gone into that situation and said, okay, if this happens, I'm going to get up and walk out. But then when it actually happens, that becomes much harder to do. So how did you find that strength to actually hold that line?
There were other people around, and they had little children as well, because it was a public park. And I did not want to subject any children to that kind of behavior. And I'm trying not to have her being subjected to it as well. But I mean, as they say, children are the future, and they're absolutely right. So if you want to bring a child into this world and raise it right, that's not how you do it. So I had to kind of swallow it down so that others wouldn't be able to hear it. So that's why I just abruptly decided to leave that one meeting to prevent something from happening.
So you said that your family kind of tried to warn you or tried to encourage you to look into his background. What led them to do that? Like, did they know this person, or what led them to learn this information that they tried to give you?
Basically what happened is they read situations much quicker and faster than I did. And they foresaw it happening, because they're pretty good like that. So it was, I guess, on my mother's part, and my aunt's part, it was a maternal instinct going with that triggered them to look into his past a little heavily. And I mean, I'm glad that they did. I'm glad that they were aware. Me, I fell under. I slid right under, but I was able to realize what I was getting myself into and ask for help.
Well, what I want people to understand too is that quite often our families or our friends can see things more clearly than we do when we are in that moment. And it is so difficult to listen and take that advice. And we feel like we know better, or no, he's changed, or no, you just don't really understand. Is that kind of how you felt with the whole situation?
100%. Like on point, 100%. Yes.
As things went on, did you feel like you could change him, or was that kind of your goal of like, oh, I just know with love and our daughter, you know, I can make this better. I can fix this. I can fix him.
Yeah. Well, certain situations that presented itself led me to believe that I could. And I just knew in my head that I could, but mentally, I thought, yes. Physically, no. Can you actually change a person? No. Can they change themselves? Yes. It all depends on if they want to and how to approach somebody that wants to be helped without asking if they need help. And that's the tough part for me. My family would ask, are you okay? Are you happy? Are you this? Are you that? Of course, I'm going to put on a fake front, say, yes, I'm very happy, but I wasn't at all.
We wear that mask so many times. You know, when we are in front of our family and friends, we just put that mask on of, yes, I'm okay, I'm great. And I think as women, a lot of times, and I hate to generalize, but unfortunately, I think it is true, we do often feel like we can be a savior and we can fix that person. And if we just love them enough, everything will be okay. And that is never the case. So I'm so glad that you made the point to say, can we fix somebody? No. Can they fix themselves? Can we support somebody in changing? Most definitely. But we can never do it. So what would you say to that person who's watching or listening to this right now, and they're in that spot where Jill was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when you're sitting there and you're thinking, no, I can fix this. I can make him better?
I would tell that person to reanalyze whatever situation presented itself up until the point where they thought that they can change this person, and really, really think deep and run scenarios in your head. Okay, if this doesn't work, then this is going to work. If this doesn't work, then maybe this is going to work. And then anytime at that point that anybody has suspicions, it's when to start pulling back.
I completely agree with you. I think there's so many times that we let the red flags go. We ignore them, or we see them and we just kind of push them to the side. What would you say would be the moment? You know, I know you took the video, but what was that moment for you when you said, you know what, enough is enough. I can't do this anymore?
Because I would tell my family that this was going on, and they would be like, are you okay? Are you hurt? Are you this? Are you that? And I would, put on a fake front. And then it was the final straw, and I wanted everybody to hear what I heard. And that's why I did what I did. And I took that video, and I'm glad I did. Because it's not okay for anybody to be yelled at, male or female, like that. Domestic violence is real. It can lead to PTSD. It could lead to severe depression. It could lead to people having anxiety issues. And those that stuff are considered a mental illness that isn't everlasting, and it impacts one's life further down the road. So the sooner you speak up, the less of the chance that you have of having that major anxiety or severe depression or anything like that. So,
what do you feel like have been the lasting impacts for you personally?
Just the yelling and the screaming for me. It's when anybody does it, I tend to snap back at them, and I don't mean to. It's just out of habit now. And I mean, I mean well when I yell now, but I mean, it's just something that I've grown accustomed to. So I just yell back, which isn't necessarily a good thing to do.
What did you do to cope as you were living with this? So this went on, for quite some time. How did you cope with it? How did you stay as well as you could while you were living in that domestic violence relationship?
I would honestly play games on my phone, watch TV. I would read, not read, I would go on YouTube and I would actually watch like another person's like inspirational videos. And it just wasn't about domestic violence. It was everything under the sun. I would watch videos on bullying and how to deal with them. I would watch videos on, he's a very inspirational YouTube star, or sensation, I should say. He's still out there. But I would watch a lot of his videos to like take my mind off and just realize that whatever's going on in that video happened in real life, and it's not okay. It needs to change. Regardless of what the topic was, it needed to change, and it changed for the better. And then at the end, this person would come out and speak about it and be really inspirational about it. And then that's what kind of like drove me to get the ball rolling on things. Hey, this is not okay. You can fight this. You don't have to be here anymore. That kind of thing went through my head. And then that's up until that moment in the van when he started yelling at me. I thought of, the bullying video that I watched, and I just took out my phone and recorded. And before I even presented this in court, because he took me to court for to change his rights. And before presenting that to the honorable judge at that time, I actually had a Google in the state of New Jersey if it's legal. And as long as one party is where the recording is perfectly legal. So I went ahead, and needless to say, the court order from 2014 stands today. So he did not win. Good. The right party won that one for sure. As you were going through this, did you realize that it was domestic violence, as it was happening? I had no idea. I just honestly thought it was a typical relationship to be in, honestly. I didn't even see the signs, nothing.
Was it the videos that you started watching that kind of led you to learn, or when did you make that connection that like, wow, I am actually a victim and now a survivor of domestic violence?
Actually, if I can, because this is the truth, this shirt right here, the host of Spear Talk actually was talking about it. And this was after the host interviewed you. That's exactly when I realized that, oh my God, that was me. And then I told him about it. I thanked him for doing it. And then that's when I reached out to you that night. And I spoke to you about it, and I let you know. And that's when you said you shouldn't have been in that situation. and all that stuff. And then you created this Strong Enough podcast. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I could share my story. I could do it. But it took time. I mean, over time, I've been comfortable. Of course, I still get choked up a little bit. Mm-hmm. But over time, it becomes easier to talk about because at that point, you realize that your story could affect somebody else's life for the better. Mm-hmm. So the more you talk about it, the more you help others.
I completely agree with that. And first off, I want to say thank you for sharing that. And yes, we will speak about that host, John, who is an amazing individual. And, that was honestly the first time that I had really shared even just a glimpse of my story was on that podcast that you're talking about. So to know that led you to realize what you really had gone through, and that's when you reached out to me, is truly heartwarming. And that is entirely why I do what I do. And what you said is so right, that telling your story, it's hard. It's still hard for me a lot of times to talk about what actually happened. But the more that you talk about it, it does get easier. And I just try to focus on the fact that hopefully somebody will hear it and it will make a difference for them. Maybe they'll connect with just one little sentence or one little piece of it and realize that they are not alone. And for me, that's the most important thing, because I feel like we are all, when we're experiencing it, we feel like we're alone and we're ashamed and we feel like we have nowhere to go. Is that how you felt when you were going through it? I mean, I know you had your family and they supported you, but how did you feel?
I did feel alone and isolated. And I've never had so much fear in me than that time. And I just want to thank you and the other host for speaking about it, because that made the transition to talking about it much easier.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to get emotional now, so let's move on. Tell me how important it is for you to make sure that your daughter at a young age understands what is okay in a relationship and what is not okay in a relationship.
It is extremely important to me to make sure that she understands what to look for and so what to say if she feels threatened or she feels hurt or she feels scared or anxious. I want to let her know that it's okay to speak up about it. It's okay to talk to somebody about it, because that somebody that you talk to may have been in the same situation as you. So they can help guide you out of that situation before it gets even worse. So,
what will you do as she gets older to continue to instill that message in her and that strength to be able to speak up?
I will continue to tell her to read in between the lines, because a lot of people don't do that. Mm-hmm. And it is one crucial part in any relationship, is reading between the lines, because that is extremely important to know everything, the ins and outs. Because if you don't know about one thing and then they do it, they could lie to you about it and you would never know. You would get sidetracked and they're in your head. And then it happens that quickly. So for me, it's all about reading in between the lines.
I bet you will also be doing some background checks on some future boyfriends, yeah. Right?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Now, what will you do? So you had your family kind of do that. They found some information. They tried to lead you to that information. What will you do if the same thing happens and you're the mom in that scenario?
I I would honestly put my foot down before anything were to happen. I would brief her on the situation. I would have her understand how crucial it is to, like I said, read between the lines. And I would support her no matter what, like they have, but also let her know that this typical relationship could be heading in the wrong direction, and kind of steer her away from that if I can, without instilling fear in her, though.
I think that is fantastic. And I love how you said I would support her no matter what. Because one of the things that I teach people when they're dealing with somebody who is experiencing abuse is to never be judgmental. Never ask those why questions. You know, why are you doing this to yourself? Why do you let this happen? Why aren't you leaving? And instead just say, I am here to support you whenever you're ready, and I will do whatever I can. So I love your answer. It was textbook. It's like you already learned all this stuff.
Yeah.
What things do you continue to do for yourself today? Because, you know, I feel like you never completely heal. I mean, we heal, but the wound never goes away. It's always a scar, you know, whether it's a something you can see or something in our hearts and our heads. What do you do ongoing even now to make sure that you stay well and that you're treating that scar?
I am a huge music biography fan. I have over 50 music biographies I haven't read, and about 50 that I have read. I am like in the beginning, I'm a huge music enthusiast. I love music, all genres of music. I can go on and on about music. I'm big into sports too, so I watch that from time to time. Obviously, I play with my daughter earlier. We went to the park and we had a nice walk. There was a baseball field. It rained here in New Jersey overnight, so obviously the baseball field was extremely wet and saturated. But I was able to tell her where the pitcher's mound was, first base, second base, third base, all this fun stuff, you know? So, I mean, that's what keeps me going. Like music, reading, playing with my daughter. Sometimes I'll watch TV, very rarely though. I like music documentaries. I actually just watched one on Sam Cooke. It was really good.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's basically what I do.
What's your favorite biography that you've read?
Oh my goodness. My favorite biography. Right. Wow. Well, I've read a lot on Jim Morrison and the Doors and Led Zeppelin. I've read 7 on Led Zeppelin and 4 actual biographies on the Doors and Jim Morrison, and then 2 of his poem books. So those 2 were the most I've read from one artist. I'm currently reading Neil Young. Yeah. I just started that book, so it's not too far into it, but it's really good. The one book that I've read that is on this topic of domestic violence, I had tears in my eyes reading some parts of it, was Tina Turner, and how Turner, oh my goodness, what that woman went through. Wow. And she fell into the same trap as most of us do. She was literally trapped. Like, this guy would follow her and stalk her. And once she didn't do what he wanted, he would beat her. He would take wired hangers and oh my goodness.
Wow.
Really bad stuff. Like, It's an excellent read, though. It really is. It's a tearjerker for those who have been victims of domestic violence, because you can actually feel the hurt that they're experiencing. It is a very, very good read. I actually have to send that one to you if you want to read it.
I was about to say, I do want to read that. Did you feel like when you're reading it, did you gain any strength just from knowing, hey, here is somebody that seemingly has it all, and she went through the same thing that I went through?
Yeah, it definitely tugged on my heartstrings, because I've been in that situation. Not the physical abuse that she went to, but the mental abuse too. It was just that poor woman, and she's still going, She's still singing, she's still here, and she'll tell you about it. If worse comes to worse, she will legit tell you word for word what happened, and she won't have a tear in her eye. Yes, it's a part of her for the rest of her life. She'll always have those mental scars, but she's not afraid to talk about it now, And that's what people need to understand. Once you're in the situation and you get out of it, it's gonna hurt in the beginning to talk about it, and you will cry and you will get emotional. But the more you talk about it and the more you see your story helps others, it'll actually make you cry happy tears,
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. And I think, obviously that's what we're doing here. We have to be willing to talk more about this. We have to pull it out from the shadows, out from the secrecy. We have to try to let that shame go. We didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. Tina didn't do anything wrong. We didn't do anything to deserve what happened to us. But I think that's the cycle that we get stuck in, of feeling ashamed, of believing the things that abuser tells us to get us under their control, basically. And for me, the most important thing is that we work as hard as we can to get rid of that shame, because the more that we are willing to talk about it, the more that other people will be able to get help, because there are so many people that are afraid to get help, or kind of like you, even though you did get out of the situation, but who don't even realize what's happening to them, because they think, well, it's just a normal relationship if I get yelled at. It's just normal if he takes all the credit cards and the money and gives me an allowance every week. It's just normal. They make all those ideas in their head that everything's normal. So I'm glad that we're talking about it, and hopefully can continue that process and that progress for sure.
Definitely.
I'm looking at your arm. So I want to talk a little bit about tattoos. As you know, I love tattoos. I'm planning my next several tattoos right now.
Same here, yes.
Right? So first I want to hear, what is your most meaningful tattoo that you have?
My most meaningful tattoo, I actually have two of them.
Okay.
One of my meaningful tattoos is my father passed away in 2014 of a heart attack. He legit dropped dead at work, just collapsed.
Oh my gosh.
So his favorite band was Black Sabbath, but it was extremely hard to find like a Black Sabbath tribute tattoo.
Right.
So I took his second favorite band, his Pink Floyd. He loved physics and science. So I took the triangular spectrum with the rainbow shining in, which is a Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon.
Yep.
And I wish you were here. And then the rainbow is pointing to his name.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you. And my other meaningful tattoo comes from the band Shinedown.
Okay.
Which I love them. And I know you do too.
Yes.
I took my all-time favorite song from them, which is Better Version, because I've been bullied in high school, all that stuff. So I took the most meaningful lyric to me in that song, and I put it on my arm, and it legit says, "How about a better version of me?" And the only S in that verse, I made shine down S.
Nice.
Those are my two meaningful tattoos.
And I love that both of them are music related.
Yes, they are. I have another music related tattoo that I am willing to share. I, of course, was one of those suicidal people back in high school and into early adulthood as well. And I fell in love with a song by Bad Company by the name of Shooting Star, which is basically about a kid who wanted to be a rock star from a young age, achieved that goal, and then overdosed and died. So he basically got what he wanted from life and then left. So he offed himself when he knew he was good. So I actually took that tattoo, and I have this shooting star right here with the semicolon, right? And there are lyrics to that song, and it says, "And all the world will love you as long as you are." And nobody understands why I left that open-ended. I left that open-ended because you can literally put anybody's name at the end of that sentence, and it would always complete it. Always complete that sentence.
I love that.
So that's for me, that tattoo.
How painful was this area for you?
It wasn't as bad. The only part that I felt was when he went more up here because it's more meaty.
That's up there, yeah.
Other than that, it wasn't as bad as I thought. My hand tattoo didn't even hurt.
Oh wow!
And that's got meaning too. So I'm gonna explain. This is my favorite color, blue.
Yep, love it.
And this is my dad's favorite color, red. So this happened at the same time as the shine down tattoo. I got the red and the blue, and I told the tattoo artist what I wanted, and he pretty much took it into his hands, and I loved what he did with it. He explained what he did. After he did it, he goes, "I know you're a fan of blue, but your dad's favorite color was red, so I put your dad in front, so it's like he's grabbing you."
Oh, that's cool.
So that's the meaning behind that one.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I have so many more in my head. Oh, and my daughter would get very upset with me if I didn't tell you guys that those Roman numerals are her birthday. They're her birthday. So I must share that before she gets upset.
So see, she made it into the podcast as she wished. We had that conversation with her a couple days ago, and we said, we'll let you in on the next one. But now you can let her know she made it in this one.
Yes, she did. She definitely did. She's going to be happy.
Yeah, I hope so. Tell me what's next on the tattoo front. What are you thinking about? What are you getting next?
Well, my dog Buddy, he passed away in 2019, I want to say, in June of 2019. So when he was put down, I was there. I was in the room. A lot of people can't be when that happens, but I feel like that's when they need you the most. It's like pull yourself together and be there.
Yep.
So after that happened, we got a nice sympathy card from the veterinarian hospital, and inside were 4 little pieces of paper. So they actually took a stamp pad to his paw.
Yeah.
And they did. Oh my God, I cried so hard. I still have mine, so I'm planning on putting it up here somewhere. Yeah.
I love that. I got that stamp pad as well, or those papers. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think that is a super meaningful tribute for sure.
Yeah.
Tell me, what is one piece of relationship advice that you would hand out to everybody watching and listening? What's the best relationship advice that you've got?
Keep the communication strong. Always talk, always vent. Ask how their day was. Even if they don't feel like talking, you might open them up a little bit and they might end up smiling. So that's definitely one thing you should definitely keep going. The communication is key. I always say that with everything because it's absolutely true. The moment you stop communicating, silence hurts more than actual words.
I agree. And that's not the first time we've heard the importance of communication on this podcast. Tell me about wellness advice. So I know we heard earlier, a lot of the different things that you do to keep yourself well. You every now and then watch TV, but it's all about music, biographies. You read a lot. You play with your daughter. What is a general piece of wellness advice that you would give out?
General piece of wellness advice. Keep your body strong, but your mind stronger.
Love it.
Yep.
Very good. I think that's the best one ever, Jill. That one's solid. So where can people find you if they want to follow Jill, if they want to hear about your tattoos, your music, what you're reading? Because I know you do post about that sometimes. Where can people find you?
I'm more active on Instagram, and my Instagram name is musicnerd86. But in between the music and the nerd, it's an underscore.
Perfect. Yeah. We'll put that on the screen for you as well so people can find it. Well, Jill, I appreciate your time today. I think what you've shared is so important. There's so many things that people can learn from. Verbal abuse, emotional abuse is 100% abuse. Put yourself first, take care of you, and know that you're worth it and you're not worth going through that situation. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I really appreciate you. I
had a blast. I really did. I had so much fun.
I'm so glad. Well, enjoy your day, and I know that we're going to talk again very soon.
Definitely. All right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I really hope you guys enjoyed my chat with Katie as much as I did. I really appreciate her outlook on normalizing grief and the healing process and not being ashamed to talk about what we're going through. So remember, until next week, you are strong enough and you are worth it. Thank you for listening to the Strong Enough podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform by searching Strong Enough. And on YouTube, we're available on the Spear Talk channel. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at strongenoughpod. If you have suggestions for an upcoming episode or a future guest, please reach out at strongenoughpod@gmail.com. Remember, you are worth it.